When I was at uni, there was one woman in our friendship group who had this awful habit of crapping all over everybody else's ideas. It was like a reflex. Whenever anyone would enthuse about a new hobby or a creative project, she would listen, but then immediately dampen all that joy with some kind of minor criticism or by pointing out why it wouldn't work. Her critiques were probably all quite reasonable, to be honest, and she certainly tried to deliver them sensitively, but as this pattern repeated, everyone around her just felt increasingly downtrodden and repressed. In the end, her friends learned not to share their experiences with her, and she got sidelined. This kind of story is unfortunately all too common. But what's going on in a dynamic like this one, and is there anything we can do to turn it around? By the way, my name's Hazel Gale. I'm a former therapist turned author and creator of the fantasy mental health game Betwixt. And this video is about what Carl Jung would have called psychological possession. So, Jung made untold contributions to psychoanalytic theory in his time, but perhaps the biggest was his discovery, if that's the right word, of the collective unconscious. That is, the realm of unconscious awareness that's common to all of humankind, linking us all together. And if we were able to pop the lid and look inside the collective unconscious, what we'd find would be a whole load of archetypes. These are universally recognised patterns, many of which you'll know as particular characters, such as the fool, the warrior, the lover, the earth mother, the wise old man, etc. But it's important to remember that the archetypes themselves are not characters or individuals, they are mere motifs. If the collective unconscious were a computer program, which some people believe to be true by the way, then archetypes would be core, recurring snippets of code. And the idea is that these motifs inform our choices, actions and perception of the world moment by moment, day by day, unconsciously. The reason we tend to think of archetypes as characters is because that's how they show up in all stories, from myth to movies, in both character types and the storylines that we know so well, such as the hero's journey. But we also see these archetypal characters in those around us and in ourselves, sometimes in a fleeting instance like the regal sovereign showing up in a moment of profound presence and poise, and sometimes in a more enduring way, like that one person who just refuses to grow up, or the evil boss who can't say a single word without sounding like a bully. Regardless of how they might seem at first glance, no archetype is fundamentally good or bad. In fact, they all have multiple faces. On the one hand, they have their healthy and effective sides, and on the other, their destructive shadow versions. And one thing that Jung warned of time and time again was that to over-identify, really just to identify with any one archetype is asking for trouble, because it opens the door to possession by that character's essence. At the less threatening end of the spectrum, this is the all too common situation where someone gets stuck in a certain pattern or mode, building their identity around themselves as a parent or as a warrior, and therefore meeting all challenges and walking into all situations from that one limited place. When possessed in this way, we become inflexible and more vulnerable to the darker aspects, the demon parts of that archetype. In her book, Shadow and Evil in Fairytales, Marie-Louise von Franz, a psychoanalyst and student of Jung's, talks about her first ever patient who was animus possessed. This essentially means that she would have been quarrelsome, critical and aggressive. Really hard work for a first client, and indeed she was difficult enough for von Franz to pass up the chain to be seen by Jung himself, who promptly recommended she kick this lady out of analysis because he believed that continued therapy would only make matters worse, that it was feeding the demon of that patient instead of the patient herself. It was, von Franz writes, as if the evil animus were sitting in front of her mouth, and whenever one gave her a good bit, he got it. In effect, the demon got fatter and she got thinner. Please note that this book was written in the 70s, and we're probably talking about an event that happened in the 40s or 50s, and she uses very different language to what we'd expect now. In fact, the way von Franz talks about therapy is in places absolutely hilarious, verging on shocking, such as in this instance where we hear that she did indeed kick this patient out, telling her what a cheating, lying devil she was. But if that sounds heartless to you, you might be surprised to learn that it has a happy ending. The immediate effect of cutting this patient off was that she started to get better. She even sent von Franz a thank you letter years later for the kick up the backside that made the difference. So it would appear that Jung was right. The demon had to be starved before the human could fight it off. So what can we do with this information? Should we just ostracize all negative people in one huge ghosting session? No, I'm not saying that, except in the case of abuse, of course. What I am saying is that If we repeatedly give something to someone, whether it's money, time, kindness, or whatever, and they repeatedly throw it back in our faces or use it to damage themselves or us further, then we need to stop giving them that particular thing, because they aren't getting it. Their demon is gobbling it up before they have a chance to even see what's being offered. So what can we do about it? It can help to understand one of the main ways in which this kind of possession can come about. Jung taught that one of the most wicked, destructive forces, psychologically speaking, comes from unused creative power or energy. If someone has a creative gift, a creative urge, or just your run-of-the-mill desire to make something, but they don't because they're too afraid of judgment, or they don't feel like they're allowed nice stuff, or because they feel pressured to take a different path in life, then it's the demon of the archetype that will take hold. Jealous, frustrated, and devastatingly adept at understanding the world around it. The demon side of the shadow artist, if you like, will try to destroy all other people's creativity through criticism, derision, and the pretense of superiority. And the only way for that to stop is for this person to take all of that energy and channel it into the thing they actually want to be doing. And we can't make them do that. We can only just sometimes make ourselves do that. You may have guessed that the critical friend I told you about earlier was me. In my first year of art school, I was in a horribly abusive, restrictive relationship that no one else could see. My boyfriend, struggling with all of his own demons, systematically cut me off from everybody I knew, even my family, and he completely blocked every degree project I started too, criticising my work, telling me I was talentless, etc. And as a result, over the course of that year, my demon got fatter and fatter as I wasted away. My boyfriend and I broke up between my first and second year, thank God. And after that, I slowly came back to life. And that critical bitterness faded away too. And while this was going on, I learned from friends what I had been like during my first year. People told me that I had come across as if I thought I was better than everyone else. And I could not believe it. Because where I was, trapped between two very real demons, the only experience I knew that year was fear. Nothing else was able to get through. So if you have somebody in your life that behaves like this, or if you are the person who is possessed in this way, here's what to do. First, remember that the chronically critical and interminably negative are hurting. People stuck in this mode are blocked and frustrated at best, petrified at worst. Next, be aware of the things you offer someone like that don't help, and stop offering those things. Whatever you need to do in order to stop, do it. This may mean walking away. And if that's what has to happen for you to feel safe and protected, even if it's only temporary, then do it. Not in anger, definitely not to exact any kind of revenge, but because the space may be healing for both of you. But walking away won't always be necessary. Either way, just remember that if what you're offering is not helping, then it's potentially doing harm instead. Finally, be ready to encourage this person if and when they start to fight back or to blossom, or whatever it is that their healing looks like. Be ready to support them in what they want to do or make or learn, because to be doing the thing that we are meant to do, the things that we want to do while here on this earth, the things that our bodies, our souls ask us for, to be free to be ourselves in the world, is the only thing that can guard us from this kind of possession. It is the answer, in other words, to evil. As always, I really hope you find this helpful. If you do, please like and share so others can find the video. And finally, if you'd like to take an epic journey through a magical world in pursuit of emotional wellness, then you can download Betwixt, the mental health game. It's available on the iOS App Store and Google Play.